Hey y'all, welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. I'm Roger and I'm happy to have y'all here with us today. So today we're going to be making one of my grandma's old-fashioned recipes, and it is Tennessee blackberry jam cake. Now I remember going to grandma's house when I was a kid, and she'd have one of these sitting on the table, and I just couldn't wait to get a piece of it because it was just that good. So hopefully I can recreate grandma's recipe and make it taste like hers did. So we're going to have a pretty decent ingredient list here, but I'll be sure to put all that in the description for you. So let's get started making this. So now a lot of the recipes that you may have seen in the past or that you may see in the future are for 3-layer blackberry jam cakes. But now grandma only made hers in a 2-layer cake. So that's what I'm going to be going for today is just the 2-layer. So if you notice that there's a difference in the recipe, that's going to be the reason why. Okay, so here's what we're going to need, and I'm going to have to read this because I can't remember it all up here in the head. All right, we're going to need 2/3 cup of butter, 1/3 cup of dark brown sugar, 4 eggs, 2/3 cup of sour cream, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Now remember that is all-purpose, not self-rising. 1/3 teaspoon of baking soda. That's 1 1/3 tablespoon of baking soda. Don't worry about it. I'll put this all in the description for you. And 1/3 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/3 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 1/3 cups of blackberry jam, and 1 1/3 teaspoon of vanilla. So that's going to be what we've got to have for the cake part of it. Now there's also a recipe for the homemade icing, and we'll get to that when we get closer to being ready to make that icing. So let's get started on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our softened butter and we're going to put it in our bowl. All right, and we're going to take our brown sugar and we're going to put that in the bowl as well. All right, and then we're just we want to cream that butter and that sugar together. So get it all off the fork there. And then we will just do a little cream on that. And so I'm not going to make you listen to the blender running. So we'll be back when we get that part done. So we've got our butter and our brown sugar creamed together. Now the next thing we're going to add is our 4 eggs. All right, got our eggs in there. And tell you what, let's go ahead and add our vanilla at this point. So we've got our vanilla in there. All right, and now we're going to just blend that up together again. And again, not going to make you listen to the blender run. So we've got that mixed together, and now the next thing that we're going to add is going to be our sour cream. Now y'all know if I was just doing this and making it for myself, I'd probably just be throwing everything in there together. I probably wouldn't be being careful with it here like I am, but I want y'all to see exactly everything that goes into it. Get all of our sour cream out of there. All right. And now we're just going to blend that sour cream in. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sift our flour, our cinnamon, our baking soda, and our salt together. So I got it in our sifter, and we're just going to do all that together. So, and that doesn't take but just a few seconds to get all that sifted through. And some of y'all may have one of those sifters that you got the crank handle on it, but we used to have one at one point in time, but don't really know for sure what happened to it. But so this right here works just as well. All right, so we got that part done. And now we're just going to add our flour into our mixture. And then we're going to give that a good mix. And we got our flour all mixed in. And now the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to put our blackberry jam in. And this sort of make it start to smell really good. All right. And now we're just going to mix that in there with that and see what we come up with. All right, and that's got that mixed up, and it is smelling good. So our next step is going to be to get our pie pans ready. We've got our oven preheating to 350 degrees. We've got our two pie pans or cake pans here. I keep wanting to call them pie pans, but they're cake pans. And they have been greased and floured. And now for greasing, you can use vegetable oil, you can use shortening, you can use butter, you can use lard, just whatever you want to use. But be sure you grease them down good and that you flour them good. All right, so now we're going to fill these up about halfway with our batter. Let's get our other one over here and put some in it. Just make sure that we don't overfill one. I just heard our oven come up to the preheated temperature. That is smelling good. Once I get this all put in here, I'll kind of check it and see if we're where we need to be on each pan. We may have to take a little out of one and put it in the other, but we shall see where we're at on that. And I'm trying to get it all scraped out of there, because we don't want to waste it. All right, I believe that's pretty much got it. So let's just kind of spread it around there. Do the same with this one. Now I hope that these don't stick, but even if they do, it's not a catastrophe. We can fix it with some icing. So all right, so that looks like those are fairly close to being about halfway. So I believe we're good and we're ready to go in the oven with them. So we'll come back when we get them baked up. So we got our cakes out of the oven after about 30 minutes, and we got them over here at the end of the bar. They're just cooling right now. So let's get started on making our homemade caramel icing. So first thing we're going to do is we've got our sugar in there, and let's see, that is 1 1/3 cups of sugar. To that, we're going to add 2/3 cups of butter, and I did go ahead and soften this butter. So let's get that in there. Y'all, it's been a long time since I've made homemade icing, so I'm hoping it turns out the way I want it to. All right, and then we got 1 1/3 tablespoons of vanilla. And we've got our 1 cup of heavy cream. All right, so we got everything in there that we need. And now we're just going to start stirring and try to get our butter all melted out. I've got our heat on about a 4.5, but I think I'm going to take it down to about a 4, and then we'll get all this worked in. So this is what we're going to do. Now I've got our candy thermometer in here. You want to have your candy thermometer not touching the bottom, and we're going to get it up to a softball stage, which is going to be between 235 and 240 degrees. So when we get up to there, we will be back. All right, y'all. So when it starts to come to a boil, you gotta keep stirring it. You can't quit stirring it, because if you quit stirring it, you're gonna scorch your caramel. So you just gotta keep on stirring until you get up to that softball stage. And I'm blind, so I'm having to look at this through my glasses here. All right, we're not hardly there yet, but we're slowly climbing. All right, now come back when we get about. So we got our sauce or our icing to the softball stage, and we'll let it cool for just a few minutes. And now we're gonna use our mixer, and we're gonna froth it up and get it thickened. It sure does smell good. I haven't tasted it yet because it was so hot, but we just want to do this and make sure we get everything worked in and everything, and you'll feel it starting to thicken on you. And of course, the longer it cools, the thicker that it's going to get. But y'all can see that's getting thicker and thicker. So just a minute or so with the mixer, just getting everything, make sure everything's smooth and everything, and then we will be done. And as this cools off and gets a little thicker, we will start putting it on our cake. All right, so I believe we've got it where we want it right now. And now we're just gonna let it cool off just a little bit more and thicken up just a little bit. And then we'll put it on our cake. So our icing is ready. We got our first layer, and we're just gonna pour some of this icing right on top. And I did taste the icing. It tastes marvelous. And so basically this is what we're going to do for right now is we're just going to spoon some on there and then just slowly start to spread it around. And again, as it cools off, it's going to get thicker. And we'll probably wind up putting some more on here and getting us a good coating going. All right, so we'll be back when we're ready to start the second. And we got our first layer frosted, and so now we're going to come on to the second layer. And now this one, we want it to spread out and just run down the sides. Make it all pretty. And if it don't run down the sides, that's going to be fine because it's thickening up pretty quick. But like I say, it's okay even if it doesn't run down the sides. Honestly, don't remember whether Grandma ever iced the sides of hers or not. So I'm thinking maybe she didn't. Maybe she just did the tops and the center. But we have about got this one done. All right, y'all. I believe we have it. All right. So we got it completely icing, and we're going to just let it set and cool up, finish cooling, and then we're going to come back and get us a piece. We got our icing put on, and now we're ready to cut a piece and see how it tastes. Oh, that's pretty. Turn it around there where you can see the whole thing. And that's what we got. We got some good icing in the center, good icing on the top. So now we're ready to taste it. All right, y'all. So we're ready to give it a taste. Got me a good piece on the fork here, and let's see how it is. It's super moist. Got a really good flavor to it. That icing is awesome. We'll tell you this on the icing though. If doing the homemade icing scares you, just go get you a couple of cans of the store-bought icing. You can use a vanilla or you can use cream cheese, anything that you'd like. Instead of going through the process of actually making it on the stove top, because it is a little scary if you've never done it before to make homemade icing. But again, this is super moist and really, really good. Um, it almost has just a kind of a spice cake flavor to it. I think that may be something to do with the cinnamon that we put in it. but it does remind me of what grandma's tasted like. So I'm pretty happy with it. So y'all try this recipe, make it for your family, share it with your friends, and we will see you next time. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate you being here with us.